Where do we begin? Perhaps the biggest headline out of the night was when Donald Trump would not commit to saying whether he would recognize the outcome of the election.
Do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. If you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime.
Sir, there is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner. Not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Some Republican lawmakers in battleground states condemned Donald Trump's answer on accepting the election's results last night. Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona tweeted Donald Trump saying that he might not accept election results is beyond the pale. Congressman Carlos Curbelo of Florida said peaceful transfer of power and acceptance of election results is fundamental to our democracy and Constitution. This cannot be undermined ever. And Senator Lindsey Graham said during this debate, Mr. Trump is doing the party and the country a great disservice. If he loses, it will not be because the system is rigged, but because he failed as a candidate.
By the way, all three of those Republicans, I think, have never supported Donald Trump, correct?
But no, none of them.
Not even close.
But Trump's top campaign surrogates are likening his answer on waiting to see what happens to another disrupted race in recent history. The election in 2000, remember that? When a razor-thin margin in Florida led to a recount, and Democrat Al Gore waited 36 days before conceding to Republican George W. Bush.
Do you remember Al Gore in 2000? Nobody says ahead of time that they're going to contest the election, but Al Gore did for many days. In fact, he retracted his concession. I remember it was pouring rain in Austin. He conceded the election to George W. Bush, and then he retracted his concession. He went all the way to the Supreme Court.
He said he would not give in to whatever the result were if he didn't think it was fairly done. That's what Al Gore did. Did he accept the results? He challenged the election. It was a very razor-thin election. He challenged it.
The election is too close. Of course he wouldn't accept it. Al Gore didn't accept it, did he? He went to court.
He's talking about being rigged, not about being too close.
Well, if it's a very big margin, then even if it's rigged, it won't matter. It'll only matter if it's a very small margin. And Al Gore did exactly that.
I mean, everybody is shocked from watching coverage last night and this morning. Everybody is shocked and horrified that Donald Trump would suggest that he was going to wait and that he's even used the words rigged. I heard people last night saying that he's the first person to ever do this, that this actually cuts at the very heart of America's credibility.
Well, there were so many incredible moments last night. Both of them came loaded to attack each other, and that we want to get to them all. But to this point, because there was a lot of reaction to this, it is the case that charges of a rigged or stolen election do not exclusively belong to Republicans. Democrats and liberals have accused the vote of being rigged or stolen for George W. Bush, both in 2000 and 2004, and have done so for years. Jonathan Chait wrote in New York Magazine in 2012, yes, Bush v. Gore did steal the election. Also in 2012, Salon asked, is the GOP stealing Ohio? In 2014, Ezra Klein of Vox wrote that 68% of Americans think elections are rigged.
And he said they're right
In
that
2000,
article.
Jesse Jackson demanded an inquiry of the results in Florida, saying shortly after the election, 22,000 people are begging for their vote to count and for its intent to be realized. This last vote caused a crisis in the credibility of this election. This is a crisis of integrity. We, the American people, deserve better. We should settle for nothing less. In 2006, Rolling Stone published a lengthy article asking, was the 2004 election stolen? They also published the interview with Howard Dean, which said this. Howard said this, I'm not confident that the election in Ohio was fairly decided. We know that there was substantial voter suppression, and the machines were not reliable. It should not be a surprise that the Republicans are willing to do things that are unethical to manipulate elections. That's what we suspect has happened, and we'd like to safeguard our elections so that democracy can still be counted on to work. Later in that year, in October, Josh Marshall wrote about Ohio Secretary of State Ken Blackwell stealing the election, and a portion of Michael Moore's documentary, 2004, Fahrenheit 9/11, tried to delegitimize the 2000 results in Florida.
And you know, also, as you said, at Willie's, we said coming on, there are several people in 2004. I mean, there are tons that you can get to, but in 2004, there were certain people around these parts that were going on TV every night saying that Ohio was stolen, that it was rigged. I guess Bobby Kennedy Jr., didn't he write?
He wrote the Rolling Stone piece that you referenced there about the voting machines in Ohio. Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump is saying this, the difference is before the election. I mean, and it's coming from the very top of the ticket before anybody goes to vote. And he's on a downward slide, so it looks like here's my out for why I lose. The other thing is Kellyanne Conway, Mike Pence, Rudy Giuliani, all the people you just saw in that clip said not 30 minutes before the debate last night, of course we'll respect the results of the eleation.
Yeah,
of course we will. And then he subverted them during the debate, and they had to come in after and clean that up. So this is a little different.
Harold?
Look, a couple things. She won the debate last night, too. To Willie's point, this is happening.
Why do you say that? How do you just say that and then just roll right through it?
Because I believe that. Now, if you want to, we can litigate that.
I would just say it's
I thought it was a great fight.
Like me saying the Alabama's going to win the national championship. You should want to know why I think Alabama's going to win the national championship. Why do you think she won the debate?
He needed to do more than he did last night, and he didn't do that. I thought that she handed him a number of opportunities to actually talk about issues, talk about his vision for the future. He didn't. Instead, he fell for the trap. And now all we're talking about this morning is whether or not he will accept the results. The difference in all of those quotes that you laid out is Willie said that was all after. Indeed, the issue in Florida, what triggered the issue in Florida were two things. One, the closeness of the race. And, Joe, you were a congressman from there. And two, the fact that there were a number of people who thought they were voting for Al Gore, but were actually voting for someone else. So there were a number of reasons, and that was the reason that we actually had a recount. I respect what Kellyanne Conway said. I don't quite understand what Mayor Giuliani is referring to, but this all happened after the race. And in addition, Al Gore accepted the outcome of the Supreme Court decision. And my understanding is that from what Mr. Trump is saying, he may not be willing to accept the outcome.
No,
that fundamentally is the difference.
What was the exact quote?
He said, I'll leave you in suspense.
He said, I'll look at it at the time.
I'll look at it at the time.
Keep you in suspense.
So that means he's not willing to say, I will accept the outcome. If you are
no, what that means is he'll look at it at the time. I love everybody saying, you know, I woke up to these screaming headlines saying, Donald Trump will not respect election results. He actually said, I'll look at it at the time. I'll see.
Has there ever been a presidential candidate to say that?
If they're voting irregularities, then any presidential candidate, anybody has the right to say that.
What would you have said?
But we would all stand here and say that.
What would your response be to that question?
I said, yeah, I'll certainly respect the outcome of the election. I, of course, will want to make sure that it's fair.
Well, he didn't say that.
I will want to make sure that it's fair. It's on the up and up.
But he didn't say that.
Yeah, but you know what? This is an example. The media got something they can absolutely freak out about and claim that he's an agent of Vladimir Putin and destroying democracy in America. And it's just another example of the media having to find a little phrase and freak out.
But Joe, he's been
when
saying this
as a Republican, I have listened to Democrats talk about the only 2 times we won the White House in like 800 years that we stole both elections. I had to sit through Fahrenheit 9/11, and a lady was sobbing violently behind me on the Upper West Side about the election being stolen from George Bush, and I patted her halfway through and go, it's all right. It's all right, ma'am.
But Al Gore...
Hold on. It's all right. It's all a lie anyway. Democrats have been whining for 16 years. They're still writing articles about how Bush stole the elections in 2000 and 2004. So this holier-than-thou attitude about this is the first time anyone has suggested that the election is not a sacrosanct process. It's a joke. So you guys bathe in that hypocrisy if you want to. I'd just like to hear how the debate went. Go ahead,
But Joe,
bathe.
you can't. The difference is what Michael just said. It's the candidate himself. You will have spectators, voters, political officials, elected officials, all contemplating, writers saying that this didn't happen this way. They stole it. Bush did this. But you never had a presidential candidate do what he did last night. That's the difference.
My target this morning for my mockery are the very people that are writing articles today on their blogs that are saying this is a threat to democracy. The electoral process in America is sacrosanct. And if we ever doubt this, are we no better than Putin? I mean, those are the people I'm mocking. So you can, I'm not comparing him to Al Gore.
Fair enough, but can you acknowledge there's never been a presidential candidate to do what he did last night? That's why we're talking about this morning.
I'm not on the witness stand here. I'm just saying that it is rich.
Nor am I trying to treat you that way.
The very thing that the Democrats are like. I had a lady come up to me yesterday who I know very well. She's a dear, dear friend of the family. And she said, oh, Joe, how horrible will it be if Kate has to grow up in a country with a president that doesn't respect women any more than Donald Trump? I said, it'll be about the same as having middle school boys grow up in a world where Bill Clinton was president of the United States. It's pretty bad.
Well,
and I said, were you?
I don't know how that relates to what we're talking about.
Oh, it relates to the hypocrisy that Democrats forget everything that they've been saying on their blogs, in their newspapers, in their magazines over the past 16 years. I'm not even mad about it. It's very funny. And here's the great thing. It's all on Google. I ask you to do what Hillary Clinton asked last night. Just Google all of this, and you will see that Democrats who are shocked and stunned and deeply saddened this morning were the very one. Hell, even Bernie Sanders supporters just 6 months ago were saying that Hillary Clinton was rigging the election.
Well,
I mean, seriously, did you all bump your head? Or do you just think we're that stupid? I think you think we're that stupid. Maybe I am, but the rest of Americans aren't. I'm going to have a sip now. I want to see some debate.
If the charge is hypocrisy
I think you bring up
among
really
pundits
good
and the
point.
media, there's no question about it. Sex
It's
life with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton.
Oh,
I get all
my
that.
God, it's unbelievable.
But coming
It
from
is
the
sick.
But coming from the guy who could be president. Coming from his mouth, Al Gore didn't say this 2 months before the election in 2000.
And he accepted the outcome, Willie. When
John Kerry didn't say it before.
But he contested it.
And it matters because it's been the theme of his campaign that the country is rigged, that everything is rigged, and now here it is. They're finally, as their last act, rigging the vote against us.
Yeah.
That's new. That's different.
Hillary